Hello and welcome to This Week in Bitcoin, brought to you by Relai Private. There's a lot of stuff that happened this week, and I don't want to waste any of your time. Let's get stuck in. News number one come out of America, and we've seen a major comeback, I will call it, with the spot Bitcoin ETF inflows. All of the ETF issuers have seen a massive request of shareholders who want to invest back into their ETF products. And let alone the 4th of June was another record day where we've seen 12,508 Bitcoin being bought by the issuers. Bear in mind, to get shares into these ETFs, they have to back the amount of shares they buy each day with spot Bitcoin, and they have to buy and hold it outright. And if you actually take a closer look, comparing supply and demand, the demand is currently going through the roof, meaning we've got some interesting times ahead. There are only 450 Bitcoin being issued by the network each day, and let alone one day. They bought almost, 15 times as much just in one day. So basically, if everything sticks up to this point and shareholders are continuously investing into these ETFs, the next couple of months could get very exciting, not only from a perspective of, how many people this brings into the ecosystem, what this does for the price, but also more importantly, the real value Bitcoin now holds in the TradFi system. It's getting a bit rid of that, it's a speculative asset thing and it's cool and hipster and whatever. It's getting more into being seriously taken a closer second look at. And if you then also read stuff like pension funds getting involved or, fellow ETFs and fellow institutions taking a closer look at these things and how to lay out strategies, if you then go into stuff like funds of funds or hedge funds who want to use the ETFs and then issue other services and products, it's never a doubt that TradFi is now really taking a closer look at Bitcoin. And the second news of this week also proved this point, because good news for Australian investors, you now have the opportunity to also invest into a spot Bitcoin ETF. I can't say this enough. If you want to invest into Bitcoin, buy the real thing in a self-custody wallet, preferably the Relai wallet if you have the chance to use it. And don't buy the ETF shares, because this is not 100% real Bitcoin, but for a lot of these institutions, it's probably one of the only ways to get invested into the ecosystem. Nevertheless, the monochrome asset management Bitcoin ETF, a real long word, is now available to trade for investors in Australia. And with it, it's the real first spot Bitcoin ETF we do see in Australia, because so far there have been future ETFs and other Bitcoin products that have not been backed with Bitcoin. Now it's a full-on spot Bitcoin ETF. We need to wait to see if there is any impact. I'm sure they have looked at the US and at other continents, Europe and Asia predominantly, to see if these products actually make sense, if there's a real demand. They have launched now. We'll need to wait 1 or 2 months to see the performance of this ETF. But it's interesting to see that Australia is now also getting on board, and that this whole TradFi system is taking the second closer look at Bitcoin and really trying to push forward. We'll wait and see if that has any impact on global adoption. But for Australian mate, it's good that you can now also invest into these ETFs if you want to, of course. And last but definitely not least, we also have some news out of Germany, and it's really desperate. Germany needs Bitcoin, because by a latest study of the Bundesbank, which is the national bank in Germany, they've actually asked people, hey, have you ever heard of CBDCs? They did not call it CBDCs, they call it the digital euro, but we all know that digital euro and CBDCs is the same thing. A staggering 41% said that they have heard of it, either from TV, from, friends or something in the media, and another 59% said they haven't heard of it. So far, so good. But when then the second question came up, would you be willing to invest or use a digital euro? They've looked at it from the investment perspective for financial products and also in day-to-day use. More than half actually said, yes, we would. Now, they probably don't know what a CBDC is. They don't know the repercussions you have if you give that much control to central banks. But nevertheless, it's not a good result if over half of these people in the study actually replied that they would use it. So for German Bitcoin plebs and Bitcoin educators out there, We guys need to step up and inform people about the dangers. Nevertheless, actually, the fact that the euro is already digital and that the only thing they would give up is control and essentially access to their own money. Compare the CBDC to Bitcoin. One gives you no access to money and you have to decide with third parties, and the other one gives you the freedom to choose. I personally would know what I would use, but it's now up to us to educate people in Germany. And with that, we're at the end of this week in Bitcoin. You know the drill. If you got questions, feedback, just want to say hello, throw it down in the comments, and I look forward to seeing you next week again.